live stream is done from my tablet for the first time in a while. And I'm in my living room now because I got my new table and 4 chairs. So that's why I thought, you know what, let me celebrate having this new table and the 4 chairs here by doing a live stream over here. So I don't have a headset with me now. Well, I do have it, but it's not connected to the tablet, because you should be able to hear me clearly. But in case you don't hear me, let me know. Then I can do something with the audio right away. Again, thanks for the thumbs up. I'll start at 4 minutes, as I always do. Oh, and by the way, I can also make quick drawings now while I'm explaining things to you, so that's going to be handy too, because I have a table. So I'm going to get my paper and my pens, so just wait here, I'll be back. And again, I'll start at 4 minutes, okay? 4 minutes in, I'll begin. For those who come in, please hit the like button. And if you want, share this live stream also. Marie, I'm glad you're here. All right, got some paper, my 2 pens over here, and I can see the live chat right in front of me. And it's during the day now, it's morning, but it's, let's see how late it is. It's 10:05 a.m., so I can use my loud voice. Nobody can complain. I see Tammy's here, I'm glad you're here, Tammy. It's almost 4 minutes, I start at 4. Glad you're here, Suzanne. By the way, happy Shabbat for those who celebrate the Shabbat. Also, is it 4 minutes already? Okay, almost 4 minutes. All right, 4 minutes are in, so class has begun. Thank you all for being here. There is one question that haunts a lot of people. One question. And the question is not, where do all these bad people come from? Because we can process that there are bad people on the earth. We can do that. All right? We can. What we're not bothered by is the fact that something bad happened. Because, well, bad things happen, we know. When large-scale negativity occurs, whether it's genocide or whether it's a pedophile ring operating, whether it's some crime syndicate haunting a neighborhood, or maybe it's a long-term evil, for example, child molestation within a family, or that employees have been exploited at a factory, Whenever there's a large scale and long-term negativity that unfolds, eventually everyone will see it in their face what goes on. And then people are shocked, they're offended, they're upset, and want something to be done about it. Well, if it's a pedophile ring, the police will come and arrest everyone. If it's a genocide that goes on, you will have revolutionaries, and even foreign troops coming to intervene. If it's sexual molestation happened to you, now as adults, you can file a lawsuit against the perpetrator, and he goes to prison. So after the large scale or long-term evil occurred, people are relieved that it's over. Okay, the negativity that was unfolding is over, but the effects are still around. If there was a pedophile ring raping children, photographing and all of that, those children are now grown folks, are now adults who still have trauma with them. Or it was a genocide, but all those people that were killed are still dead. They're not coming back. And the economic relations have changed also. So after something bad happens, you can never go back to how it used to be. It has to either become better, or you're going to remain in this stagnant, undercovered state. So let me say again, you can never go back to before the crime or before the evil happened. That's not possible. You either become better afterwards by recovering, or you remain lingering in the trauma. As simple as that. For example, someone could have robbed you on the street 20 years ago. Until this day, you're quite suspicious of people around you. That suspicion became pathological because now you don't trust anyone. And now you lost your friends, most of them, you lost business opportunities, and if your marriage is about to fail, your wife wants to divorce you. Now, that didn't happen to you walking on the street. Back then, it only happened once. Whoever the guy was, that guy eventually went to prison, and he left prison, and he thought, you know what, I don't do this street robbing anymore. So that guy that robbed you moved on. But you, even though you healed from the shock of being robbed, you accept it happened, but the impact you never dealt with, so you didn't recover from what happened to you. And now, even though the actual perpetrator has recovered and moved on, you didn't. And in this case, it's not on the perpetrator anymore because you had the opportunity to realize, okay, I need to go into therapy, I need to go into counseling, something needs to be done here. So something bad happens, and after the bad thing happens, you need to not only heal from it, so healing simply means, okay, accepting it happens, and not being stuck anymore with being upset and all of that, and then you need to recover. You need to process what happened, and you process it by realizing, I need to be better off in life. I need to work to become better. Maybe you were robbed in the street. Not because you were careless, but because you were walking through a neighborhood that had a bad reputation. And you thought, nothing bad happened to me. Well, now you realize, you know what? It's not your fault the individual robbed you. Because there are many neighborhoods with a bad reputation where people are not robbed. But now you need to realize, you know what? I need to have some protection on me. Carrying a gun or a knife will not help, so I need something spiritual. Well, that's an improvement, because now you're learning that you need more security in life. So, processing things means that you become better off afterwards. If you don't get better off, you remain lingering and haunted by the trauma. So, things can only become better or they become worse, but they will never go to how they used to be. And that's one reason why so many people never recover from bad things that happen to them. And that's another reason why some communities or neighborhoods go downwards. It's because they always want to go back to before the injury. Look, any medical doctor can tell you, if you suffered a big physical injury, your body can heal from the injury, but you always have some scars or something in your body that you need to deal with. If you've been stabbed, some organs were hurt. Those organs can heal, but you're still going to need to take painkillers, and there's still going to be some neurological damage you have to deal with. You can never go back to before the physical injury. Any medical doctor can tell you this. While similar it is on a psychological and spiritual level. You cannot go back to before the betrayal. You can't go back before the scapegoating. You can't go back before the victimization. You have to give up going back to what you perceive to be a good time before it happened. And that's another thing. When something bad happens, it didn't just happen out of the blue. Let's say you're walking down the street, okay? Suddenly someone puts a gun to your face, give me your wallet. Now, that individual did not come out of his mother's womb thinking, yeah, let me put the gun in someone's face and take the wallet. No. They didn't even know what the wallet was until likely maybe age 5 or 6. So that individual was neglected. That individual chose compensation instead of healing and recovery, and they ended up on the negative road that led to criminality, and now they countered you and they thought, let me rob you. So it's a long process before that circumstance occurs. But often we only look at the circumstance and realize, okay, there was a lot that led to this. And here's the thing, you also were not informed about the spirit world, about energy fields, energy waves, or none of that. Because if you were informed about those things, you would have realized, you know what? I cannot secure myself physically. My physical body cannot secure myself nor anyone else. And walking around with physical technology is also not a guarantee. I need to have some power. And the only power you have is the spiritual power. Now, unbelievers don't have power. They have a leverage and they have tricks. So let's say you were a warlock and you learned to pay attention to your intuition. You would have felt, you know what, I'm not going to walk in that street right now because I feel like something bad's about to happen over there. Then you would have avoided it and you wouldn't have been robbed. But let's say now you're not a believer, or maybe you are a believer but you don't have spiritual knowledge and you never learned to pay attention to your inner radar or intuition. You may walk into any bad situation and get hurt. So on the part of the perpetrator, it was a long process, it was on the part of you who end up being victimized. So you think, oh, before I was robbed, or before I was raped, or before I was kidnapped, or before I was lied to, before I was set up, life was good. No, life was not good. What you had was not even life to begin with. What you were in was toxic, and you were not even aware of it. It's only when the bad thing occurred that became a rude awakening of how bad your situation was. But often we idolize our situation before the attack or before the trauma. The trauma that actually occurred was an eye-opener, a rude awakening that you were not in a good condition. But often we don't want to go through that, because if you've been robbed in the streets or you've been, set up or whatever, and now you need to realize that, hold on a minute, the people that raised me, not only my parents, the whole environment that raised me was neglectful, and because they were neglectful, I didn't learn the practical things about life, and now I became a defective adult. Now you can still recover from becoming a defective adult, absolutely, because you're an adult now, so you have options, but you have to admit that you've been neglected. And that can be a lot to process. That can be emotionally overwhelming, but you have to go through it. A lot of people want to idolize the situation before the trauma happened. And you need to let it go. Before the trauma happened, it was a bad situation. Now you can only become better, because if you keep idolizing the situation before it, you'll always stay in this loop and you'll never recover. All right. Before I continue, I'm going to show you 2 things. Okay? Let me know if you can see it clearly. Can you see it clearly? Just say it in live chat because I can read what you're writing in the live chat. Can you see this clearly? Okay, you can see it clearly. So let me explain what's above. Above here, you have a male and a female. They're not a couple, just a male and a female on the street randomly. But anyway, they're in the street. The man has a spheric energy field, which men have. Men's energy fields are quite dense and heavy and big. And you have the female with her oval-shaped energy field. Okay? Now, male energy fields and female energy fields are different. Here you have a man who is in a state of negativity. As you can see, his energy field is completely scattered, broken here and that, and he's giving lightning shocks of negativity to the environment. So at a distance, at the physical distance from this individual, you will pick up some of these shocks he's giving off. So you know, there's something wrong with this individual. You don't know what is wrong with the individual, but you know something's off. So as a woman, as well as a man, when you get those lightning shocks from a man nearby, you know, okay, avoid this individual. Below you see the same man and the same woman, and then you have a female who's in a state of negativity. Now, a female doesn't give off those lightning shocks like a man do. By the way, lightning shocks can be both positive and negative. In this case, they're negative. Women give off a wave. Like a cell phone gives off a signal in form of waves, women give off a wave. They give lightning waves instead of lightning shocks. So, if there's a female and she's in a state of negativity, you may feel some push against you, some anxious push against you. Once you feel that anxious push, you know, okay, there's something wrong. With the man, it will be a shock. With the man, it will be shocked swiftly. You will feel shocked. You feel penetrated by their negative lightning waves, lightning shocks, I mean. And with the woman, it will be in negative lightning waves. So that's how it goes. So whether someone is a male or female, if they're in a state of negativity, you will pick it up. The only way you won't pick this up is for example, you are, let's say, 50 meters away or whatever. If you're physically far removed from them, you won't pick it up directly. But if you're around 30 to 20, let me say 30, 20 meters, I know it's a big difference, 20 to 30 meters close to an individual is enough for you to pick this up over here. If you're close to 20 meters, you'll feel it more directly. So, this is how it goes out there. If someone is in a positive, okay, let me draw the positive one also. But before I continue, is this clear to you? Is this here clear to you? Let me know. Okay, good. Finishing this drawing very quickly. It's not very beautiful, but hey, bear with me, saints. Just to teach you all over here. Okay, so here you have other people. Very quickly. All right. Okay. Let's say, okay, this is a man. He's in a state of positivity. Well, here his energy field became a little bit bigger. Because the energy field tends to become a little bit bigger when you're in a happy, joyful, and excited mood. So, here you have a man, let's say he's a believer, and here you see him giving those intense lightning shocks to the environment, positive shocks. This one, because it's positive, it penetrates through other people, and they may even be able to feel it 100 meters away. 100 meters away, at least you can feel it. The closer you are, the more you feel it. This is a woman down here. Hold on, let me rest my pen. Okay, there's a woman down here in a state of positivity. Her energy field is smaller than that of a man, but when she's in a state of positivity, she gives lightning waves. And the lightning waves can reach you till maybe 60 meters, 75 meters. The reach is a bit lower than that of a male energy field, but still you can feel the positivity till 60, 75 meters. With a man's around 100 meters. By the way, I'm using the metric system. I'm not familiar with feet. I believe 100 meters is around 300 feet, I believe. I'm not sure. So, but anyway, you can do the calculation yourself. So, both, let me say it like this, both positive waves, positivity and negativity are felt at a distance. Now, the reach of negativity is slower because negativity is heavy. Positivity is vibrant, is in movement, so we can go a bit further. And if someone is a believer with the resurrection power of Christ, they can even shoot positive, as a woman, positive waves to a specific individual, or they can shoot positive lightning to someone from far off. That's when you have the Holy Spirit. So when you, as a believer, send peace out of you, this is what's going on. Let me use another pen to illustrate this. All right. So when you send peace ahead of you, let me write it down for you so you can see it. When you're sending peace ahead of you, this is what goes on. Hold on. As a man, when you send peace ahead of you, you're giving out this intense lightning shock, laden with positivity. You shoot it out of you like a missile and it hits its target, the target you imagined in your mind. And the resurrection power of Christ in you, it boosts the strength of it. As a female, you send out a big wave, like a flood of water you send ahead of you. And this will similar like a missile, this like a wave you send ahead of you. And it reaches the target, which you imagined. So that's how sending peace works. So sending peace ahead of you is something you should naturally do anyway, but it can also be a weapon against negativity around you. All right? By the way, Nadine, thank you very much for your super chat donation. Very much appreciated. So, you always pick up positivity as well as negativity. Now, what is psychic violence? Let me illustrate very quickly to you. Psychic violence is when, okay, let me draw a few men around also. Let's say there's a group of men over here, okay? And this group of men, they have someone on their mind they're thinking about in a negative way, and they're murmuring and meditating negative on the individual. You will have, let's say this other individual right over here. Okay, so you have a group of men over here. I want to use a female example, but yesterday you have a group of men over here. Remember, men are dense, energetic creatures. And they're meditating negativity about someone, or maybe about a building or a business. They're giving off intense negative shocks they give off, and eventually affects an individual that they've targeted mentally. And that individual now feels some type of heaviness on their body, or they may even crash with the car or whatever. Okay, this is quite effective within 20 kilometers. Outside of 20 kilometers, further away, it cannot affect you that much. The closer you are within 20 kilometers to the perpetrators, the easier it works. So violence, because this violence over here, is proximity based. Okay, you have to be physically close for it to affect you. The same it is with physical violence. You can't physically beat someone that's 20 meters away. You can throw an object at them and hurt them, but then the object must be close to the individual. If someone is 1 kilometer removed from you, you can't throw a ball towards them over 1 kilometer. Not going to happen. Even firing a bullet at someone, they need to be you will be close to them. You can't be 2 or 3 kilometers away and fire bullets at someone. That's not really handy. So violence is proximity based. You have to be physically close to the human being in order to actually harm them, have an effect on them. When it comes to energetic violence, because violence begins in the spirit world, energetic violence is within 20 kilometers is quite effective. Up 20 kilometers is not that, it doesn't work well because it's heavy, so it kind of travels slowly. The same, if it's a bunch of women mandated actively, they give off heavy waves to give towards an individual will be overwhelmed also. It's also within 20 kilometers. If you have men and women together, now you have both masculine negativity and feminine negativity together unload on the individual. That can be quite intense. So, psychic violence, which is the origin of all violence, is a counterfeit of sending peace ahead. Something Christ taught us to do. So, before I continue, is both clear to you, sending peace ahead as well as psychic violence? Let me know in the live chat. If there are any questions about it now, please ask them right now before I continue to the next topic in this live stream. Is both of these two things clear to you? Let me know. If you're a bit late, you can always replay it later on. This live stream later on is no problem. All right. So understand this. Sudden bad things can happen to someone if they're not aware of their inner radar and it's something on a small scale. For example, being stabbed, being shot, or being robbed, or being raped, or something very small that's bad can happen to a single individual or small group of people out of the blue. That can happen if you have a bunch of people who are not spiritually aware. It shouldn't happen, but unfortunately such things happen. There's no such thing as a neutral energy field. It does not exist. It does not exist. You're either positively in movement or you're polluted, one of the two. So, there's not the neutrality, does not exist in the spiritual world, but anyway. But if there's large scale negativity, that can only continue if the public is in on it. Because think about it, if you have one guy that is negatively charged, everyone can feel there's some bad charge with that individual. So everyone says, you know what, either we avoid this guy, or if you can't avoid him, because that's going to be too, it's going to backfire, we need to talk to him, or force him into therapy, or we need to put a watch on him, we need to do something. So nobody becomes a mass shooter out of the blue, and people think, oh my God, did he shoot up the whole school and killed 20, 30 teenagers? And he's a teenager himself? Oh dear, how could this happen? Haven't you noticed in mainstream media, the bystanders are always so shocked and amazed that something like that happened? Well, let me tell you, much of that is acted. If some guy walked in with a gun and shot up a whole school, a mass shooter, people knew something was wrong with that individual for a while. They just did not care enough about their own safety as a community to intervene and to provide help or therapy to that individual, or to intervene in their abusive household, where they came from. Because here's the thing, when a community neglects itself by not investing in their own long-term sanity and long-term safety, they are doing the opposite. They are investing in their own misfortune. And when a community invests in their own misfortune by being neglectful, that neglect is a booster for those who are negatively charged. And often those who are negatively charged are charged negatively due to neglect or trauma by the same community. So the victims of the community sometimes become the time bombs that explode and harm the community further. And then people look at the former victims as, whoa, how come this guy shut up the whole school? He became a suicide bomber? Or they did this? Now suddenly everyone is shocked. Why? Because they don't want to see the bigger picture. Like, man, it's on them. It's on them for not intervening and pay attention to their own communities. And that is why you have this sympathy campaign towards the collateral damage that happens. For example, let's say there's a family where the parents are beating and harming the children, and nobody in the neighborhood intervenes. Later, one of those guys, later that same child, who's now a 23-year-old man, he ends up running this drug empire that caused a lot of harm in the community. There's a lot of drug dealing going on. Now, in this case, they can call the cops and get the guy arrested anytime, but they don't do it. Why not? Because this guy, who used to be extremely neglected by the community, he sees that others were also neglected just like he was, and he offers them relief in form of drugs. So if they try to get him arrested, you're still going to have a lot of other people who are also neglected exploding in the community. So then, you know what? We don't want our own people we've neglected to explode on us. So this one guy that we neglected gives the rest relief in the form of drugs. Let's tolerate him until it goes too far. That's why you have so many drug dealers out there, because the public knows if their victims don't get any relief from their psychological trauma in the form of drugs or whatever, then they will explode on them. That's why there's so many drug dealers out there that are not arrested, because the community prefers them to be around, because at least the drug dealer works in their favor. As simple as that. Or let's give another example. Let's say that let's say that you have a guy that nobody likes. Let's say you have a pastor in a community. Nobody likes the pastor. And one day, a sex offender molested the child of the pastor. Everyone secretly rejoices because nobody could harm the pastor directly because that would backfire. But hey, a lot of people talk about laying hands on the children of the pastor just to hurt the pastor. But hey, now you have someone who did the dirty job for them. So secretly, they're supporting the child molester molesting the child of the pastor. Of course, nobody would say that. But what if that same child molester now begins to harm their own children? Now suddenly they all call the cops. Now everyone's saying, oh shit, why this creep around here? Hold on a minute. When that creep came too close to the child of the pastor, a man you guys can't stand, you thought, well, fuck it, it's a child of the pastor, we can't stand the pastor. So we have a right to let the child get molested. But now the same child molester was hurting your children, or suddenly it's something big. Hold on, so you enable the child molester to molest the child of someone you couldn't stand? So by doing that, you enabled a child who has nothing to do with your aversion towards his parents to be harmed. And by that, you motivate the child molesters in general to do their thing. Oh, but now that it escalates, that's always happens, evil escalates, now suddenly all of you are the victim. Oh, it's that bad guy that you need to catch. So in this case, if this child molester continues and molests more children, whose fault is it? It's the fault of the community who enabled him to molest the first child because he couldn't stand the parents of the child. Such things happen out there. So often such things happen, there will only be one individual who says, yeah, but it's what we expect, whatever. But that one individual is shut up very quickly by the masses. So the question that haunts a lot of people that survive trauma is, how come nobody did something about it? How come people just allow this to happen? Well, let me tell you why people allow it to happen. People allow bad things to happen to you or happen to a portion of their own community because they want to be left alone. They want to have peace. For example, let's say there's a group of there's a female, okay? This woman has been neglected since she was a baby, okay? And she ended up becoming this moody, bipolar woman with emotional time bombs. Man, emotionally, she's a mess. And she's horrible to deal with. Now, as an adult, she can look for help. Okay? But that she's an adult and she has the responsibility to look for help, that's irrelevant. What matters is she did not end up that way by herself. She was deformed that way by the community. Let's say now this woman is now exploding on the people that neglect her, the whole neighborhood. One day, they may see this woman become infatuated with a guy. Do you think the people from that neighborhood who are to blame for how this woman turned out, do you think they're going to warn you, the men, please watch out with this woman is out of her mind, she's not safe? Do you think they will do that? No, because if she becomes infatuated with you and she hooks you, that means her whole focus will be on you. So then also her negative focus will be on you and not on them who neglected her. So then you'll be her victim now, and you'll be the one that has to deal with all her bad moods, and the whole community now has ease. This happens. So if you have an ex-wife that harmed you, or if your mom was neglectful, harmful towards you, let me tell you, she did not end up that way by herself. The people around her were either responsible for how she was raised or were close to her, knew about it. They did not want to intervene to get you safe, because that would mean they have to face her. Or let's say it's your husband, ex-husband, or maybe your father who was really harmful towards you. That man was not deformed by himself. As an adult, he should look for help to be better. So I'm not excusing him remaining that way as an adult. But it's true, he didn't end up that way by himself. But who deformed him that way? The community he grew up in, or the people around him. Those people are not going to warn you, because if they warn you, you will tell the man that those people warned you, and then the man will tell you, well, those people keep warning you about me, but how do you think I ended up this way? So if they would warn you, they would give away that they are responsible for how this man turned out. So let me tell you, if you have a reprobate that's harming you or haunting you, don't go to his or her parents or the people in their neighborhood expecting them to help you have sympathy for you. No, they won't, because they are the reason he or she end up that way, and likely they are the same way but more managed. Look, an apple doesn't fall far away from a tree. If you have an apple tree and there's wind, the apple may be blown away by the wind and fall maybe 10 meters away. That's like 30 feet. But an apple will never fall 200 meters away from a tree. That doesn't happen. So if someone is a rotten individual on the inside, guess what? Where do they come from? That means they come from a rotten environment. So all the people make up environment are equally rotten, or even worse, they're just managed better. So that's why your ex-narcissist, your ex-husband was a narcissist, could get away with harming you like that. Nobody warned you about him. Even some of his ex-girlfriends not warn you, because they're all in on it. Or maybe it's your ex-wife, or maybe some business partner you're involved with that scammed you or conned you. Why did anyone warn you, nor reach out to you? Because they're all in on it. Because with the bad happening to you, the perpetrator has to focus on you and not on them. And because the focus not on them, that means they won't experience the harm that's brought forth by that individual. Because let's say you're a child and they get you out of the house because your father is abusive. If your father doesn't have you to offload upon, who will he offload onto? Someone in the community. And because nobody wants that to happen, nobody wants to be confronted with that, they prefer to allow him to continue to harm you. As simple, as weird as it sounds, the public will agree together to give up the public will agree to keep you or other victims in harm's way so that they can have ease. So they are equally bad as the perpetrator. Now, sometimes you have people who join the negativity, think they're doing the right thing. What if now you have people calling the cops on a family, saying that they want the family out because they're causing trouble in the neighborhood? Now the police officers come with the information given that there's a family causing trouble. So the police comes to arrest them to get them out. What the police not aware of is that these people were targeted for weeks as scapegoats, and now they lost their mind on the community that was targeting them. So when the police arrives, the police goes off with information given to them, oh, there are people here smashing windows, get them out of here. The police was told to de-escalate, arrest the people that are breaking the windows. What the police is not aware of is that those people are now exploding back on the community that were exploding on them. So in this case, it's the victims collapsing. And when the victims collapse, it looks like they're perpetrators, but actually victims. The police doesn't know that. They just act based on what they are told. Is that an excuse for the police? Absolutely not. It's not an excuse. The police should say, hold on a minute. There's an incident going on in that neighborhood. People are smashing windows. Oh, we need to go. But hold on a minute. How come they smashing windows out of the blue like that? How comes only now they're calling the cops? The police should do their due diligence before they intervene. Do they do this in general? Some countries they do. Some countries they don't, like the United States. In the United States, they love to pull out their weapon and shoot immediately. But that's what I mean. The same way, if let's say you're just a Netflix series of, let's say there are 3 seasons, each season has 10 episodes. You come in season 2, episode 3. From that point on, you begin to watch the series. You don't know what happened in first 2 episodes of the second season. And you don't know what happened in the first season either. And now you watch 2 episodes of the second season, and now you base an opinion on the series in general. Will this opinion be based on facts, or will it be based on, well, or will the opinion be completely faulty? What do you think? Will this opinion about a series be valid, or will it be some fairy tale? Let me know. What do you think? What do you think? Let me know in the live chat. It is a Netflix series with 3 seasons. Each season is 10 episodes. You have 30 episodes. You come in episode 23, and you watch episode 25, 2 episodes, and you make a judgment on the whole series. Is this going to be valid? No. That's going to be a fairy tale based on what you want to see, because you have not watched the first season. Or even if you didn't watch the first season, you should look for a summary of the first season and the 2 episodes you've missed, just to be better informed about what goes on. But let me tell you one thing here. People out there are used to having fairy tale opinions. An opinion is a judgment based on your own experience. That's what an opinion is. Okay? You don't have to be experienced in something to have a good opinion. For example, if someone wants to, let me say, if someone wants to jump off of a building that's a 10-story building, even though you don't have experience with doing that, you can understand, you know what, in my opinion, it's not a good idea to do that. And you're right. Because you have knowledge that based on the magnetism of the earth, when you fall off the building, there will be consequences, or you may not even survive it. So an opinion is a judgment based on your experience, or maybe the experience of someone else. So you can have an opinion based on someone else's experience. Or let's say it comes to cooking, for example. You may not be that experienced as a chef, but if you have a brother who's a professional chef, and you witness him cooking a lot, now you have his experience that's opposed to you that you can base your opinion about. Now, you cannot form an opinion without being informed properly about the context and about the content. But a lot of people, they get a little bit of information and they make up their mind about something or someone. So many opinions out there are fairy tales that people hold on to. Why is that fairy tale? Because it's not based on actual proof of reality. If you encounter someone homeless on the street, okay, in dirty clothes, begging for money, you can't say, oh, this individual brought it on himself by not working hard. What? First of all, there are not enough jobs out there for everyone. Okay? And even if there are more jobs than people, not everyone fits every job. And first of all, to be hired at a place, you need to meet certain criteria. So not everyone can have a job. That's one thing. Sometimes there are more people than jobs. So they need welfare. But what if there's no welfare? Or what if someone was set up at work and they were fired unjustly and they couldn't pay rent, now they're on the street, and no family and no relatives help them out? What if it's not their fault they end up that way? But hey, you don't want to be bothered by it, so you think, oh, you must have been lazy, and that's why you got fired from the job and became homeless. That opinion is a fairy tale because you don't want to face reality that what happened to him could happen to you too. Because you have a 9-to-5 too. And if people don't like you at work, you'll likely get fired because they turn on you, and then if you don't get a job on time, you may be homeless too. If you miss out one paycheck, you may be homeless too. You don't want to be reminded of that. So you tend to project onto the guy that it's his own fault for being neglectful. Let's say someone went to prison for a crime they not committed. After 10 years, they're released from prison. Now you need to admit that the legal system you trust upon is faulty. Now, when you hear about the court case, you realize there was no proof this guy raped that woman, or there was no proof this guy committed a burglary. So there was no proof he committed any crime, yet he went to prison. So now you need to realize, hold on a minute, how come this guy was convicted and there was not even proof he did anything, only circumstantial evidence? That shows you that the legal system is willing to, or the justice system is willing to set you up just with ease with the masses. So what happened to that other guy going to prison for a crime he did not commit can also happen to you. Now you may say, well, if he would have cooperated with the police, with the investigation, they would have figured it out, or if he had a better lawyer, you tend to make up excuses just because you don't want to face the fact that, hey, just like to set that guy up, they could set me up too, unless they have some protection. You don't want to face the instability of the community, so you come up with a judgment based on nothing just to make yourself feel good, and so that you don't have to challenge yourself. Fairy tale opinions, those are quite common in the world. Oh, you were beaten as a child, a lot. And now you have the children out there who tend to resist parents and other adults when things are out of line. You didn't even dare to do that because you would be whipped with a belt. And now, so that you don't have to face how much you've been neglected and abused, you project on children saying, man, these children today don't have respect, man. They need some ass whooping. That's a fairy tale based opinion. Fairy tale based opinions are quite common. Fairy tale opinions are opinions based on false evidence, false proof, because someone has an agenda. That's it. Now, what does fairy tale opinions have to do with this topic? It's quite simple. People will blame the victim so that they don't have to look at themselves as the perpetrators or the enablers of the wrong that happened. They want to feel good about themselves no matter what. That's a narcissistic attitude. Now, they're not narcissists by default, but it's a narcissistic attitude that people want to feel good about themselves no matter what. They don't want to face themselves like, you know what, I can improve, I can be better. They don't want to do the inner work. They just want to be left alone and feel good about themselves no matter what. So when they end up neglecting their own community or neglecting someone, they will blame the one they've neglected. That's how people are in the world. So yes, people are willing and capable to do such things, and they do. They do. So you need to understand this about fallen mankind. Folks want to be left alone, and they want to be at ease at all times. But at the same time, they don't want to be challenged, don't hold responsible for being neglectful or not doing what they should do. They want to have excuses, saying, oh, but I'm working 40 hours a week, so I can't pay attention to my community. Oh, but I have children to look after. Oh, but they come up with excuses to make themselves look good. Only a few people will say, man, I'm just not interested. I'm not even interested in my own well-being. Fuck everyone. Only a few people would do that. And those people are often expelled from the community also. So, that is why you have to see the situation for what it is. Worldlings are willing and often even motivated to join forces against someone that's being neglected or someone that's being haunted. Yes, they do. Because challenging the bad situation would mean that their own contribution will be exposed, and they don't want that. So that is why sociopaths often get away with conning the masses. Why? Because let's say you have this pastor of this cult, and this pastor, he is arrested for sex trafficking. Oh, but here's the thing. A lot of the women that were part of his team that helped, grooming the sex trafficking victims were married women. And their husbands were aware of it, but not that they were part of that cult. And here's the thing, that cult leader was sleeping with all those women that were recruiting victims for him, and those women were married. So if this case comes out, it will reveal that a lot of the married women in that community are not loyal to their husbands, and they were willing to enable this con artist to harm other people. Let's say those women have children that are growing up in that community. Those children will face bullying and exclusion afterwards. And when that happens, some of those children may explode psychologically and cause harm, or they may become criminals or whatever. So at some point, the judge, as well as the local politicians, will realize, you know what, if we prosecute this cult leader, it's going to expose so much the facts of this community. When all the facts come out, there will be no community anymore, there will be no social trust anymore, and without social trust, people will lose their mind on a daily basis, and we'll have people being suiciding themselves or homiciding each other on a daily basis. We don't want that. So they will cover up the sex trafficking ring by this cult leader, and they will only keep the cult leader in check. So let's say you were one of the victims of that cult leader. You will figure out very quickly that when you're calling the cops to tell them what goes on, you don't get much response. Or you may realize when you cry out about what happened to you, people don't want to hear about it. Why? Because people don't want to know that their own neglect is leading to all of that. Because if it comes out that many married women were in on it, that means that those women were not raised properly or whatever. So the whole ease of the community crashes. That's why that sociopath cult leader could get away for so many years, because he has something on the masses. So anytime you have a sociopath, whether he becomes a politician or a businessman or whatever, anytime a sociopath gets away with exploiting the masses, because he has something on the masses, the masses don't want to come out. As simple as that. And if you are the victim of that sociopath, don't expect any sympathy or any therapy or any help from the community. Okay, someone asked, Diane asked, how can we pray to the detonate time bombs from exploding? Yes, we can. You can send peace ahead of you towards an individual of whom you suspect has become a time bomb, and experienced believers can even approach them and offer therapy at a distance. You can do that if you're qualified. You can do all of that, and you can also bring some positive improvement to the environment, just so that the people that became time bombs feel more at ease. So that doesn't guarantee that they will become believers or delivered, but at least they're more at ease. Yes, we can detonate those emotional time bombs from going off, but we have to be on time for doing it. We have to be on time for it to succeed, that's what I mean. If you're not on time, things will go off, as simple as that. All right. By the way, you can ask questions now. Are there any questions about this topic? Please let me know in the live chat. You can ask them now. Let me check if I miss any questions. So understand, large-scale and long-term evil only happens on the earth because the masses are invested in it. Simple as that. And that's why believers should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And that is why believers have to be watchful who joins them. Because some people will fake being believers. They'll quote scripture, they'll sing hymns, they'll say, praise the Lord, thank you, Jesus, and all of that, just to fool you, to get yoked with them, just because they want to hinder you. Simple as that. So we have to be watchful with those that join us. Why are they joining us? This is what you need to ask yourself. So understand, the reason why so many people never recover is because they keep on to go back to the time before the injury. That doesn't happen. But some people want to recover from the injury, but the reason why they can't recover is because they are stuck in processing what actually happened. You can only process something if you know what happened. If you don't know what happened, you can't process it. And here's the thing. You have to process it's the community that was in on it. So you have to realize that those people were unreliable. I need to understand, just like you were neglected and things end up bad with you, it happens to a lot of people too. So don't think, oh, I just want to cut all those people off and meet new people who are neglectful. How do you know those new people are not neglectful? Time will tell. But you don't need to spend all the time with them. You can pick it up energetically. So never ignore your intuition. Here's another thing. Human beings have this dysfunction that they cannot lie successfully. Human beings will always give away when they're lying. Human beings, when they lie, they always give themselves away either to body language, or they will have a slip of tongue in which they misspoke something. And when those things happen, then suddenly the mask clips and you see what they really are. Pay attention to that. Often we get harmed by people, not because those people are so bad, but because we didn't realize on time what we were dealing with. So that's a question that haunts a lot of people. Why didn't anyone do anything about it? Well, now you know. So one thing I want to explain to you also. When people are invested in something, they become blind often to the dysfunction that a thing may bring. Look, you can be invested in something good. And if you invest in something good, there are no side effects of something good. But what if you invest in something that's not good, but you think is good? Now then, anytime there are warning signals, you will not attribute it to the good thing you think that you invested in. Let's say, for example, that someone thinks that having a lot of police officers on the street is a good idea. So they celebrate, yes, let's have more police officers in the street to catch the bad guys. They celebrate that idea. But now they forget that those police officers were also babies that grew up. Some of them have trauma too. Some of them have unprocessed issues too. And now you have people with unprocessed issues carrying weapons in the streets. So will that end up well? No. So anytime of this police brutality, and it's proven on camera that the police officer went too far, they will say things as, well, if the suspect would just have behaved better or just cooperate, it wouldn't have happened. Even though the video evidence of the dash cam shows that the suspect was cooperative, but they were just beaten down. Yes, I do answer questions via email if I see it. Sometimes it ends up in the spam box and I don't see it. And sometimes I don't receive them at all for some reason. So then now, because you're invested in the idea more police on the streets means more safety, you think it's a good thing to have more police on the streets. Now when the proof is in your face that's actually a bad idea, because you're invested, and because you cut off friendships that didn't agree with you, you've sacrificed social relationships, and you sacrificed sometimes even your marriage or whatever just to prove this point that having more police on the street is a good thing. And now that you have to admit it's not a good idea, you won't get back your marriage, you won't get back those friendships, you won't get back all the time you've invested in this idea. So now you need to take the losses. And now, when you admit that you were wrong, people praise you for admitting you're wrong, but people still don't realize, man, how unstable were you not to see that this can go bad? This shows that you were delusional at some point. Now, you're not fully delusional, but somewhere you were delusional. So now you need to go into therapy too. And if you have a job where people require you to be stable, they may decide maybe you're not fit for this job, because if you were so delusional about that, what else are you delusional about? So, if you've been invested in the idea that having more police on the street means more safety, and now proof shows you it's not the case, it can be a very rude and painful awakening to you. So a lot of people don't want to go there. So they'll become more radical and thinking, no, more police on the street is more safety. Oh, the guy was shot by the police because, man, he had that knife. Okay, but what about all those other, what about the 2000 case over here when someone had a machine gun and the police managed to get them in safely without shooting them? Yeah, maybe the cop was not professional, maybe the cop was dead. No, stop making excuses. Now, police brutality is one example in which people are invested in an outcome that does not work, but they don't want to admit it. So, that's how it is in the world. When people are invested in an outcome, they become blind to the reality of what they invest in, especially when it's something that's not actually good. That's why Jesus said, make sure that the light in you is not darkness. Make sure that you're not holding on to something that's actually bad if you think it's good. And it happens a lot in the world. So people that are misled and they don't want to face it, are misled, they end up, just to feel good about themselves and those around them, they end up collaborating with harm against those who are oppressed. Simple as that. So, only expect justice from the Heavenly Father. Only expect justice from the Heavenly Father. Don't expect justice from the police, nor the legal system, or from some activist group, because all of them have some political agenda that they're bound by. Expect justice and long-term recovery and long-term improvement only from the Heavenly Father. If you expect justice from anyone else but the Heavenly Father, I'm not talking about revenge, I'm talking about justice, okay? Vengeance means things being rectified on your behalf. Revenge, you're just hitting back those who hate you. The Heavenly Father is not into revenge, he's into vengeance. Don't expect justice from the world. Don't even expect justice from fellow believers. Expect it from the Heavenly Father. That's what you need to do. All right? Let me see. I didn't receive any other questions now. In any case, thank you all for being here. Keep on agreeing with Christ, be at peace, and I'll see you next time. Happy Shabbat.